Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakatah. We are the Isupk, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York in 1969. We're under Commanding General Yohana here to teach the truth of the Bible for blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, that they are the real Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Today, San Antonio, Isupk San Antonio, we're having our first Hebrew class. That's the Lashawan Qadash class. All right. The Lashawan Qadash is the ancient Paleo Hebrew. This is the Hebrew that you see, you know what I'm saying, in the oldest hieroglyphs, you know what I'm saying, in North America, in the burial grounds of the Native Americans. You find this language in the ancient parts of Israel, where our people derive from. Now, in the ancient Hebrew, there are no vowels. It's all consonants. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off with the basics. Since today is the first class, we're going to start with the basics, talking about the alphabet, right? And we're going to take a look at two different alphabets. When we talk about the ancient Hebrew, what we do is we look at the pictorial ancient Paleo Hebrew and we get the understanding of that. And then we also get the understanding of how it looks in the modern, or what we call the Assyrian sense. The Hebrew that is the Assyrian is also what we use during the Sabbath service predominantly. And also, of course, is real relevant to today's Hebrew that you see the so-called Jewish man trying to use. Right, so we learn both of them, but we learn it in our way with our dialect and with our pronunciations of the Hebrew words. So when we go into the ancient Hebrew, there's no other way to really start to get this down than to practice. Just like with any language, you start to learn any language, repetition becomes important, practicing becomes important. It's important for our people to learn our language because this language is going to be the dominant language on the planet once Christ returns. So if we are to take this serious, it's important for you to grab a pen and paper and a notebook, especially for a class like this. We'll, of course, ask that people, take notes during class throughout the week as well. And especially when we're talking about the ancient Hebrew, it's best to start practicing as soon as possible, getting the handwriting down, starting to get the muscle memory down, and of course the visual memory and looking at some of the letters. And so starting with those letters, we're going to begin with the ancient Paleo Hebrew alphabet. What we're going to do first is we're going to write down the entire alphabet, okay? We're going to write down the entire alphabet, and then we're going to go over each letter one by one, and we're going to practice writing that letter in the ancient Hebrew, okay? We'll start off with that, and we'll see how that looks. And then if we do have the time to do so, we'll definitely get into the Assyrian Hebrew as well. So we're going to begin with the letter Ah. The letter Ah in the ancient Hebrew like this right here. That's the letter Ah. And if you look, it almost looks like a sideways A. All right. Let me actually put that a little bit closer to the left because I think we're getting a glare right there. Let me go ahead and put that over here. Yes. Ah. This is the letter Ah. All right. It's pronounced Ah. Hebrew in a sense is very simplistic. It's how do I say, it's Ebonics at its root. You know what I mean? It's about simplicity. It's about strong pronunciation, almost like you're yelling the word. In fact, when you see a lot of brothers, write on Facebook or in social media, when they use Hebrew phrases, a lot of times we even put it in all caps. And the reason why we do that is actually just because the letters themselves are just consonants that are supposed to be pronunciated at a much higher tone than your typical languages of today, which try to, speak soft and romantic and stuff. Hebrew is not necessarily like that. Hebrew is a lot more fierce. I understand. And so starting with the letter Ah, okay? The letter Ah, here's the next letter. Ba. Ba. This is the second letter of the alphabet. Okay? We got Ah, we got Ba, now we got Ga. Ga. Let me see if I can write that a little bit better. So Ga is a little bit, is kind of more so like this right here. Okay? Ga. Almost like a 7, sort of. It's like a 7 that's tilted a little bit. Ah, Ba, Ga. Da, which is one of the most well-known ones. You understand? Da. In fact, this is a good time to bring this up. Da, for an example, is a triangle. And the kingdom of Israel uses a signet from the King David himself, whose name in the ancient Hebrew, and I'm going to write this in English just so you can kind of get how it's pronounced. Dawada. Dawada. So if it has, of course, Hebrew is written right to left, not left to right. So basically, there's a da right here, wa, which we're going to get to in a little bit, and then another da right here. So if that is his name, then the signet that they chose to go with King David's name is two triangles joined together. And that's where we get the ancient Paleo Hebrew, how it ties into, the actual for the nation of Israel, the family crest, so to speak. You understand? So knowing that, of course, is something that separates the ISUPK from a lot of other institutions out there, a lot of other schools, heck, even other Israelite groups that don't necessarily dive into the ancient Hebrew the way that we do. When we look at it, we don't look at it like it's some sort of mystical thing that can't be tapped into. It belongs to us. You understand? This is our language. We're supposed to be taking our language back. It's time for us to come back to our original heritage. And when we do that, then we're going to be strong again. It's going to be time for us to come back to this law, statutes, and commandments, knowing the language predominantly on the planet. Once we are in rulership, our language is going to be the standard. So we got to get used to that because we're so used to talking things in English. We're so used to, going and doing all of your business in English and Spanish. Some brothers speak, some brothers speak French, some brothers speak other languages, but Hebrew is going to be where we all unify on. All the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel are going to unify with this language here. So continue it. First we got ah, ba, ga, da. Now we have ha. And as you notice, going from right to left, some of these words, as we go through the alphabet, you'll even start to notice that some of these words begin to look a little bit familiar to some things or aspects to some letters that we have known before. Some of them look like other letters, but don't exactly sound like them. So it's good to memorize these things, okay? So again, this is the letter ha, which kind of looks like a backwards F with an extra line in it. That's what ha looks like. Abagada ha wa. We spoke about the wa earlier. The wa kind of looks like a Y. I don't know. Let's see. This is the letter wa. You understand? Abagada ha wa. Wa looks like a Y. But just remember that wa looks like this. Okay, not like an actual W, more so like almost like the letter Y. But again, this is a whole different version of language. This is the oldest language on the planet. So when you're learning the ancient Hebrew, you kind of have to throw what you know out the window from the languages that we know now because they all come from this language here. All of them mainly come from this language here. You know what I'm saying? From English to Spanish to Chinese. You know what I mean? They all originate from somehow, some way, coming back to the original language of the Hebrew. Okay? Abagada ha wa. Now here's one that will may be a lot easier to remember. Za. Za. Which looks like a Z. That actually if any of them have actually kept the way that they looked over time, it is the letter Z. You understand? Abagada ha wa za. So za is of course it's one of those letters that has a good zing to it. You know what I mean? Obviously, all the different letters in Hebrew are going to be pronunciated with a strong pronunciation. Za is definitely one that has no exception. Za. Ha. Now, we typically associate ha with ha, and you can kind of see how they look kind of similar, right? But ha doesn't have here, and this is how, if I were to write it in English, just to give you an idea on how to pronounce this one, this one's pronounced ha with specifically the CH sound added to the front of it, unlike this one, which is just the ha with, with the HA pronunciation, as we would compare it in English, right? So ha wa za, ha, and now here's the letter ta. This is the letter ta, which kind of looks like a, how do I say, like an X inside of an O, right? That's the letter ta, okay? Ya. Ya. Now, some of the most commonly known Hebrew letters, especially in the Lashawan Qadash, let's go and start with an example of how we put this together. Just because, of course, we're going through the alphabet, but it is good to see examples of these letters being used, even just based off of what we've gone over so far, right? One of the most important ones, of course, we talked about Dawada, which is how we get the actual shield of David, the family crest, the signet of David. The Tetragrammaton, which is the four-letter word that we use to associate the name of the Most High in the ancient Hebrew, is Yahweh. Yahweh. And I'm putting these here, and we'll explain more on this as we continue forward. But this allows you to kind of separate the pronunciations from each other. So we're talking about a four-letter name, right? Yahweh. Yahweh. From right to left. Yahweh. So we're using the letter Yah, the letter Ha, and then the Wa is actually joined with the H at the end of it. Because technically it's Yahweh Ha if we just looked at the actual letters Yahweh Ha. But a lot of times in the Hebrew, whenever a phrase is being finished or a name is being finished, the last two letters may be joined together in some cases. So that's why we don't pronounce the ha at the end of here. It's just joined with this one. I just want to give you a small example of that as we're typing the alphabet here. That the Most High's name is Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God or any kind of simple things like that. Because again, we have echoes of this evidence throughout history. Now, the interesting part about this language here, this language, you actually find artifacts of this language in North, Central, and South America that go and date back as far as 700, 800 BC. And that, of course, lines right up with when Israel fled from Assyrian captivity. We study this in class, right? We study this in class, and we understand exactly where we fall into in our role in history. And when you listen to some of the oldest, Native American chants, they would actually pronounce Yahweh in some of their songs and phrases, giving praise to what they call the Great Spirit. Now, of course, we're coming back to our original culture. So the ancient Hebrew is to not be mixed up with any modern, Native American tongue, so to speak, but rather taking a step further back and taking a step further back from the languages that we were forced to learn, and so that we can come back to our true heritage. So again, the alphabet: Abagada, Hawaza, Khataya. All right. I'm gonna go to the next line here. Ka. The letter Ka. All right. Now, of course, we're going from right to left. So a lot of times when we think of something that looks like this, you may actually think of the letter K. But this is actually kind of like that, but backwards. So Ka is another one that's actually easy to remember if you can remember which direction it's facing. Just like how we can recall that kind of looks like a capital A that's turned on its side, right? So we're just looking at the letters, and we're just starting to forge an understanding of how they sound and what they look like, so that we can associate the two things together. Ba ga da ha wa za Khataya, ka. That's the letter ka. Now here's another one that's easy to remember. La. La. Actually, over time, stayed the same as what it always has been. La. Okay. Other languages have copied this. English has copied the letter L to look the same. So the letter La is also in its ancient Paleo-Hebrew form. That is actually correct. Kala. This is when things start to get a little bit different, but you'll start to see some instances here. Ma. Ma. So what do we know? What do we see here? And you know what? The best way that I can kind of explain ma, as far as remember it, is just keep in mind that na comes right after that, and na is like this. So what do we see when we look at these four? Ka, la, ma, na. This looks like a backwards K. This one looks like an L. This one actually has an extra squiggly compared to this one, just like how M has an extra squiggly compared to the letter N. And they actually are lined up right after one another, very similar to what we know in English. LMN. OP, when you think of like our modern alphabet for English. LMN. Okay, so M is basically ma, which looks like the extra squiggly, and then it has this droop, kind of like how ba does this right here. This should actually be closed out, but ma comes in and swoops down right here. Na does the same thing, but with less lines right here on the upper part of the letter. Okay, ka, la, ma, na, sa. This is the letter sa. That's just what it is. Okay, so you're just gonna have to kind of remember that. I want to say now, of course, I don't want to really compare this to any other language now, but this is the original root form of what we know as sa. And when we think of the letter S, it's kind of doing that, but there's no line going down the middle, and then these parts are being broken up. You see? So what happens over history is that letters change, pronunciations change, but there are some hints of this throughout history. The letter sa. Ka, la, ma, na, sa. I know that looks like an O, but it also looks like an eyeball. The letter I looks like a circle. Sa, I. Okay. Now again, we're gonna go through all of these letters one by one, and we're gonna actually practice them together through the class today. All right, because really what it comes down to is, are you practicing the language enough to really drill it into your mind, to memorize it, to own it, to take over this language and saying restore it back to the original people that it was created for. Kala, mana, sa, I, pa. Pa. Pa looks like a mouth. In fact, the letter pa actually means mouth. So when you look at the way this has an opening right here, that actually looks like a mouth. Pa, which means mouth in the ancient Hebrew. Pa. Sa, pa. Taza. Taza. Taza looks like a T mixed with a Z. So it's also easier to remember this letter right here. And like I said, it's just going to come through repetition. So we're going to repeat some of these things over and over so that we can really start to get the practicing down. So again, when we're going over these languages, when we're going over the letters and the alphabet, it is good to get a notepad and write these down. That's the way I learned. And I learned this alphabet, I want to say about 10 years ago when I first saw this. And so it's been a lot easier for me to remember over time because these are the steps that I took to study to remember this alphabet. Okay. Again, starting from the top. A, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, cha, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, ta, za. Now we have the letter qua. We're almost done. All right. Qua. This is what the letter qua looks like. Now we think of the letter Q like this. We think of the letter Q to have an object with something starting in the middle and coming out of it. Well, Qua actually looks kind of like a semicircle with a line going straight down the middle. That's what Qua originates from. The letter Q comes from this. Za, Qua, Ra. Again, Hebrew is read right to left. So you remember that, you'll never forget that this kind of looks like an R that's backwards. We think of the letter R going like this, right? But Ra, think of it kind of like an R that's facing the other direction, because naturally Hebrew goes this way, not this way, like English. So Ra, if you can remember that the way it looks, kind of like how Ka faces backwards, right? Faces that way. Ra does the same thing. Okay. Taza, Qua, Ra. We can go ahead and put the last two here if we got space. Let me see. We'll just go ahead and put it over here. Sha. The letter Sha. Now this is where some people will get a little bit lost, because when they see Sha, that looks like a W, right? They see Sha and they see a W, but we already know Wa looks like this. So where does that come from? That right there is actually very similar even in the Assyrian Hebrew. You're going to see that alphabet as well when we get to that. Okay? So Sha. There's one last letter. Let me get through the whole alphabet here. Abagadahawaza Khataya Kalamanasa Ipa Tazakwara Sha. Last letter. Ta. Now this one's particularly easiest to remember. Don't complete that full line like as if it's the letter X, but think of it as the letter T that's tilting over. So you're drawing this line here, and again, I'm just going to rewrite it just so you can kind of see how it flows. It's a diagonal line, and then one that goes through it, not directly in the middle. I guess it doesn't quite matter, just know that it's a mini line that goes through it. So Tha looks kind of like a falling T. All right. So we have Abagadahawaza Khataya Kalamana Sa'aipa Taza Kwa Ra Sha Tha. Okay. See how they're all very simple? These are not vowels. None of these letters are actually vowels. We think of the letter A, E, I, O, U as vowels. The modern Hebrew uses vowels, but the ancient Paleo Hebrew does not. Like when we drew the Most High's name, the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, those were all consonants. Vowels are basically considered filler letters, letters that transition from one part of the word to the next part of the word, right? But the actual ancient Paleo Hebrew, as you notice, is less letters than what you see in the modern alphabets. Most modern alphabets have a lot more letters, especially English. And so what you'll notice is that because there's less, it's actually more simple. So going over the letters one by one, the best way that you could practice it is to practice one by one. This is how I learned to do it. So when we go over it, it's almost like as if I'm going over the homework with you. If we were to actually, say class is over, you have this all written down, what was it that we would need you to do so that you could start to remember these letters? Well, it would be best for you to write them over and over, to write them in a line. And then what I like to do is this. If I start with the letter A, and I start to pronounce the letter A as ah, if I write it, I say it. Ah. Ah. Every time that I write it, I say it. So that I'm looking at it while I say it, and then it puts a memory in my mind that that's what it looks like, that's what it sounds like. So I'm going to go this whole row, okay? And I'm just going to say this same letter over and over. And every time that I'm writing it, you'll notice that you're doing two things. You're practicing how to pronounce it. You're also practicing how to write it down, okay? getting that just right, the way that comes through like that with the alligator mouth, then the line down the middle. You know what I mean? You don't want to just, put it way over here, or you don't want to, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to, put it the wrong direction. So you want to actually practice it so that you can get that down pat. Does that make sense? Most High Christ. We have a comment coming in and out of focus. Salakia. If it's out of focus, yeah, definitely let me know. It looks sharp from here for now, but I'll try to monitor that as we move forward, because I know I'm kind of right in front of the camera, right? Okay. So again, starting from the beginning. Ah, ah. Just drill it. Ah, ah, ah. See what I'm doing here? Trying to get it consistent. Ah. Just draw it. And if you're writing on a notepad and you're taking these notes, you're doing the same thing in your notes. Draw the entire alphabet first, just like how we did, and then line upon line, you're gonna just go all the way across the whole row, just like how I'm pretty sure that when you were in elementary school, you did the same thing when you learned the alphabet, where you would write each letter over and over, and then you had the little lines on the paper to help you kind of figure out what size it needs to be for the uppercase and the lowercase. Well, you don't have to worry about that with the Lashawan Qadash, because they're all uppercase. There's not one letter that's necessarily smaller than the other. You just have to remember that what they look like. So again, we're doing more of these. So ah, 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 ah. Kind of enlarging them, but we're just going to keep going. See that? So you're really building on the consistency of the letter as you go from right to left. Building on that consistency, trying to get right, pronunciation as you're writing it down. So that's the letter A. That's the letter right there. All right? Next letter. Now, you just have to follow along with me. Again, we're practicing this so that we can drill it in our minds, so that we can remember how to pronounce it. Because, the crazy thing is you're going to want this more than you're going to want the Assyrian Hebrew. The Assyrian Hebrew, however, is what we look at predominantly when we're in Sabbath service. But for the sake of garments, for the sake of, handwriting ancient Hebrew, prayers and things like that, you may want to prefer the ancient Hebrew, because it's even more exclusive than the Assyrian Hebrew, where less people know about it, though it is more in tune with what we derive from. And of course, this is a language that was used by the Native Americans. So for those northern tribes, of course, this is Isupk San Antonio, where we're reaching out to blacks and Hispanics and Native American Indians, and San Antonio is predominantly Hispanic. Well, most Hispanics don't know that this was the language of their ancestors way before Spanish was forced on them. You understand? Way before English was forced on us. We even used this language before we were speaking Cherokee and, Mayan and all the different languages of the South America. So we continue here with the letter Ba. 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 Trying to be consistent. Ba. 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 Okay. Ba. Follow along with me. Try to do the same thing. Ba. 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 See that? Just trying to keep it the same. Ba. 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 That's the letter Ba right there. Okay. Now, after doing this with the entire alphabet, after about 2 or 3 times, you really start to get the hang of it. But the first foundation that you got to have is remembering this alphabet here. Okay? So that's the letter Ba. Next letter is the letter Ga. Okay? Ga. 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 Again, we're just going down the line here. We're writing it down and we're saying it. For those that are just tuning in, check it out. So you're just going Ga. Ga. If you get you a piece of paper and you start writing it down, you'll start getting it too. Ga, ga, ga. This is how you remember it. Ga, 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 ga. All right? Looks like a 7, like it's tilted a little bit. That's the letter ga. Okay? That's the letter ga. So again, so far, we've done the whole alphabet once, but we've started to drill a, ba, ga. The next letter is da. Okay? Da, again, the Dawa Da, which is the ancient Paleo Hebrew name for David. Okay? Again, remember Da because Da is very important. Da. Well, they're all important. You get what I'm saying? Da. 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 It's literally just a triangle. Da. 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 Again, just practicing that. All right. That's the letter Da. I hope we all are following along. For those of you tuning in, go ahead and copy along with it. Just follow along with it, because again, we're just doing the basics right now. Even for those that already know the alphabet, it's good to do this every once in a while just to re-imprint it in your mind. I do this myself at least once a year just to make sure that my handwriting is good, because you may not actually use ancient Hebrew every single day when you're writing on stuff, but it is good to practice to make sure your handwriting is consistent with the way you need it to be. The next one, ha, 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 ha. Trying to make it really similar, each one. Ha, ha, ha. Keep practicing. Ha. It's like a backwards F. Ha. 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 That's the letter ha. Okay. It's best that we learn this now. Again, the exclusivity of the ancient Hebrew, this language is going to be the language that conducts business around the world. You understand? Christ comes back. Have our language back. This will be the dominant language on the planet Earth. So we ought to take our culture back. Take it back, own it, you know what I'm saying? Memorize it. Just become this language. This language has been given to us by the Most High to be the holy tongue. In fact, we will have to talk about that at the end of the class. Lashawan Qadash is the name of this language. All right? So again, we've had A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha. The next letter is Wa. Again, we're just drilling them, practicing. Wa. 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 See what I'm doing? I'm writing it and I'm saying it. And I don't care how annoying it is because we're saying it over and over. Wa. Wa. But you do this a couple times, I promise you, we're gonna forget what it looks like and how it sounds. Wa. 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 That one's a little bit harder to be consistent with, but that again looks like the letter Y, basically. Okay? Wa. Next one, we already know this one. This is Za. It's a very simple one. So we'll just go through this one real quick. Za, 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 Za. That's the letter Za. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Okay, looks like the letter Z already, so that's an easy layup for you. Za. Next one is Ha. Okay, gotta pronounce the Ha. Okay, Ha is not the same as Ha, but you'll notice they look very similar. Ha with the enclosed. You think of Ha. Let me give you an example. One of our great captains in the school, Khataza, which is just literally the letter Kha and then the letter Taza right after it. See what I'm saying? This is an example of how to pronounce it and something where it's being used in. Khataza. So here's the letter again because we're practicing. Kha. Kha. Ha. What does this already look like? It looks like letter H. It just has 3 lines in the middle instead of 1, right? Because that's how it starts off. It's like a ha, but with more. So now it's ha. 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 So there's the letter Ha. All right. I hope it's showing up clear on the camera. It looks like it's good. All right. Moving forward. That's the letter Ha. Okay. Next one up, the letter Ta. Ta. Again. Almost like a stop sign. Or X's and O's. Ta. 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 Again, an example, right? You're just going and practicing it over and over until we get it right. Say, for instance, Captain Tahawar. Now we're starting to put some examples together. Ta. Ha. Wa. Ra. Tahawar. Starting with that letter, Ta. This is an example of the letter Ta being used as the first letter in a name. Tahawar. Captain Tahawar, great artist for the Lost Tribes, you understand? And a great captain in the Isupk. Tahawar. Next letter, Ya. Sometimes the letter Ya is a little bit smaller than the other letters. When you're looking at the letter Ya in the ancient Hebrew and in the Assyrian, sometimes it's, and we'll see it when we get the example, and we'll of course have the full alphabet so that you can really follow along with it. But you look at the letter Ya, and it kind of just sits in the corner a little bit, you know what I mean? But very well so, you could still write it full size. You just, sometimes when I see it on, you know what I'm saying, artifacts or, you know, and anywhere where it's being written, it may not be completely the same size as the other letters. Sometimes it's almost like that size. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind. It's still the same letter. Ya. 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 Keep on practicing. Ya. 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 Again, that's the letter Ya. We use that name when we pronounce Yahweh's name. Okay? That's the first letter in the Tetragrammaton, which is the 4-letter word that the Most High's name comes from. Okay. Next letter, ka. Think of a backwards K. Ka. Right? Ka. 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 Again, that's the letter ka. It's like a backwards K. Okay. Sign of Christ. We're getting there. We're getting there. Now we're on that last row. Okay. Next letter. This is an easy one. La. 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 Again, we're just drilling the letter into your mind. So you're just rewriting it and saying it each time. La. 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 That's the letter La, as you see right here. Okay. Next letter, Ma. Ma. Okay. Ma. 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 Pretty consistent for the most part. Okay. And that's what it looks like. Ma. Right here. All right. Next letter. Na. Remember, na has less squiggly. So instead of doing the whole thing like that, it's just down, up, down. All right. So na. 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 And that is the letter na. Okay. Like as in trying to think of a name. Lashawan. Trying to think. We'll move on. We'll get through this. Then again, we're gonna get the Assyrian alphabet as well. Okay. Next one up. Sa. 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 The letter Sa. Okay. That's the letter Sa. Okay. So there we have the letter Sa. Next one is I. 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 Look like an eyeball, right? I. I. So when we go and we're drilling these letters, you're writing them down. Now you see, it's really about getting that consistency and then the pronunciation. Like I said, we're just doing the same thing for every single letter. Once you get through this alphabet, then we're gonna go and we're gonna rewrite the whole alphabet just off of one go. Then it's gonna be a lot easier to remember. Okay. Next letter, pa. 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 That was a terrible one. Pa. 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 That's the letter pa. Okay. Next letter, taza. Okay. Taza. It's almost like you could write it as you say it. Taza. Where it has like the line and then the Z that attaches to it. Taza. 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 All right. Taza. 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 Mind you, Z doesn't touch right here. It doesn't touch. Because then it would kind of look like an R. That's not really what it is. So you just gotta be careful not to actually touch it. Let that Z be what it is. Taza. 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 Again, that's the letter taza. Okay? Straight like that. Next letter, qua. Okay? Qua. Okay? Either way, qua. 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 Again, we're just practicing it here, right? Qua. 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 And there you have the letter qua. All right? Like in the word Qadash, which we'll cover here in a moment. Okay? Next one, Ra. 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 Almost like a flag, right? Ra. Ra. Or like you're starting to write the letter R, but it's backwards. You're just not putting that last line there. Ra. 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 And there you have the letter Ra. Okay? That's how it is right there. Two left. All right. Now we have the letter Sha. 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 There's the letter Sha. Remember that. That one's used a lot. And then finally, Tha. 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 ta, 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 ta. There's the letter ta. Okay. So going over the entirety of the Hebrew alphabet, easiest way to remember it is kind of militant. Remember, kind of like a military, right? So Abagadahawaza Kataya Kalamanasa Ipa Taza Kwa Ra Sha Tha. All right. Again. Abagadahawaza. That's like in the new if you were marching, you would repeat it, right? Abagadahawaza Kataya Kalamanasa Ipa Tazakwa Ra Sha Tha. All right, that's our alphabet. That's where our language comes from. All right, and now this is what we just studied right here. What we're studying is called the Lashawan Qadash. Lashawan Qadash. This is the first Lashawan Qadash class for Isupk San Antonio. All right. And the Lashawan Qadash means holy tongue. You understand? Because this is the language that the Most High wants us to pray in. In fact, when you attend Sabbath service or any of our classes, at the end of our classes, we always finish with a prayer, and we always say it's in the Lashawan Qadash. But we also translate it for the English for people that don't know what is being said, because we want to be courteous to our students so that they know what they're saying. All right. Lashawan Qadash. Lashawan Qadash. La, sha, wa, na. These are two joined together. Qua, da, sha. These are two joined together. Lashawan Qadash. Now I'm going to write the entire alphabet, just like how we remember. A, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, taza, qua, ra, sha, tha. And there's the ancient Hebrew alphabet. We just went through them letter by letter, drilling each one. All right. Again, ba. I want to leave this on the screen here. Ga, da, ha, wa, za, ha, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, taza, qua, ra, sha, and then of course tha. All right. Try to keep it in a straight line, but do the best I can. I wanted to make sure to leave room because we need to go also over the Assyrian alphabet. Let's see. Just checking the time real quick. Baba Kashah, give me 1 sec. Perfect timing. Okay. Yes. So again, we just drilled the Lashawan Qadash in, in its entirety. We also, again, for those of you that are just peeping, if you're going to go home and practice, write each letter, ah, ah, ah. Write it all the way down a sheet of paper. Do that. Say it after every time you write it. And then, of course, work on the handwriting because you want to get that down pat. Okay. Again, one last time. Abagadahawaza khataya kalamanasa aipa tazakwarashatha. I'm going to change that M. I just wanted to look a little sharper. Look a little bit too curvy. I don't know about all that. It's a sharp language, a fierce language. All right. We want it to look that way. Okay. So that is the Lashawan Qadash. Now, how do we compare that to modern Hebrew? Okay. Modern Hebrew. I feel like I should rewrite this because I need to take up more of the board with this. So Salaki, y'all, bear with me 1 second. Let me just rewrite that a little bit larger here. So ba ga da ha wa za ha ta. That's good size. Ya ka la ma na sa I pa taza kwa ra sha ta. There we go. That's more like it right there. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to write the pronunciations. Ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, ta, za, kwa, ra, sha, and then of course, ta. So again, we're really just doing the same thing over and over. That's how we learn the language, drilling it into our minds, practicing it. But here's the kicker. When we learn the Hebrew language, we're actually learning two versions of the language at the same exact time, which is where the challenge comes into play. Okay? So when we start to look at the Assyrian Hebrew, notice the differences between them. There are going to be some similarities, but for the most part, the letters themselves will look completely different. So when I'm writing the next alphabet here, I'm going to line it up right under the word, the letter that the ancient Hebrew is referring to. So the letter A is going to look like this. A. Okay? Like I said, a whole different letter. Next one. Ba. Ba. Okay, almost like a hook. Like a hook coming in. It's not necessarily, don't get it mixed up with ka over here. Where's ka? Oh no, ka's put it down. Don't get it mixed up with, but one thing that you'll see is that it kind of has some similarities going on. It's overall different. Da. That is the letter da. The line, and then a line that's not so much in the middle of it, but a little bit to the right. That's the letter da. Oh, Slovakia. I skipped one. That's the letter da right here. The letter ga looks like this. See if I can write that a little neater. It's almost, I think of the letter ga almost like a throwing star or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you got this curve coming out and then this curve coming in right here. I'm going to rewrite it again just to make sure it's a bigger size here. You know what I mean? Make sure you got that. It's like a backwards S and then another S coming in. That's the letter ga. You have da. Okay? Then you have ha. Ha. Actually looks like this. Ha. Okay. Ha. Almost like a I was gonna say, like it does have some similarities here because it has this and then it goes over, but instead of having the three lines, you just have one slightly disconnected line that would otherwise make it look like a table or something like that. So the letter ha. All right. Next up, wa. Wa, it's got a little squiggly right here and then comes down like that. But a lot of times when you look at wa, especially when you see it on any applications, it's dang near like a straight line. It's more like that. It's more like it barely comes in like that, and then it goes either straight down or curved, towards the middle. So it's really just kind of like this. That's the letter wa. Okay. I hope y'all are following on that. I'm basically just writing what's on the chart that you receive when you first start the classes, right? Each one corresponding with the letter right above it, so that we're not getting confused as to which letter is which. A, ba, ga, da, ha. It's the same as up here. It just looks different because again, we're learning alphabets at the same time. So you can knock out two birds with one stone if you write it like this and then practice it together just like this. Because again, we're going to be doing the same drill, but we're going to be using the Assyrian Hebrew. The Assyrian Hebrew has a few tricks up its sleeve, though, okay? So keep that in mind as we continue. Wa. Then we have the next one, okay? Za. I actually really like writing the letter za because it goes like this, and then it goes like this. Pretty much something like that, right? It kind of reminds me of ga, but it's a little bit more like, you know what I mean? So when you're writing it, it's like that, and then like that. It's almost the same as ga. It's just a little bit more, turned this way to look more like a T. But that's the letter za. Okay. Za. Trying not to write nothing extra on here, Okay. Za. Now, ha, as we look at the letter ha and how it relates to ha, keep in mind that ha also relates to this ha very similarly, except the table is completed and it's got a little bit of extra border on the top there, a little bit more of a bezel there on the top, almost like a double T or something like that. So you're seeing the ha, which looks like a line, and then two lines going down the middle. All right. Now the next letter is going to be ta, which the easiest way that I remembered writing the letter ta when I was trying to learn is that it looks like a piece of toast because it comes in like that, and then it does this right here. Make sure you have a little bit hang off on the edge there, but for the most part, you know how when you look at a loaf of bread and you open up a slice and it looks like a toast, that you're kind of drawing that right here, okay? And that's what your ta is going to look like, okay? So it's basically a square, almost like a slice of bread, like a slice of toast. So that's how I remember ta. Because ta and toast, that's how it looks in the Assyrian Hebrew, okay? Again, y'all, I hope y'all are following. I know it's a lot to it because we're going through a lot here. Again, a, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ha, ta. All right. Ya. Ya. If there's any letter that is significantly takes up less space than any other letter, don't get ya mixed with the regular ancient Hebrew ga. Okay, they look very similar, but ya is specifically smaller, and of course it's a whole different alphabet. Anyway, don't ever get those two mixed up unless you just using them both at the same time, which you pretty much never are. So a, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ha, ta, ya. Again, ya. Just a little, when you look at the, how do they say, when they say YH, WH versus YH, Y. Yeah, how, yeah, how, okay. Yeah, how, well, but you have the closing on the end. So it's Yahweh. Matter of fact, this could actually, you probably get away with making this a lot shorter. So, like I said, when you look at the letter Yah in a lot of applications, sometimes it's like it's barely even a little squiggle that looks like that. You know, like when you look at like the Bible Hub app or anything like that during Sabbath service, you're going to see the Yah in a very small letter. Okay, so just know that that's pretty much the only one that does that. So when you see that, you'll pretty much recognize it right away. Sometimes this Yah also is a bit smaller than in a lot of the ancient artifacts that show ancient Paleo Hebrew. It actually shows it at the full size most of the time. So we won't worry too much about that. Okay, so there's your Yah. Next one, Ka. And I believe Ka, of course, I remember what that looks like. I'm just kind of getting the right idea on how it's written exactly. Ka, yeah. So Ka basically comes across and it does this. So Ka, not to get mixed up with Ba, but Ka kind of has a nice hairdo and then comes down and goes over here, right? Like it kind of just it kind of does this loop and then comes in and then across. That's what Ka looks like in the Assyrian, right? So it comes across with a little smooth line, a smooth little slope, and then comes through down and over here. So again, don't get this mixed up with Ba, because again, Ba, it doesn't have, it actually just kind of curves straight down, and then it also has extra hangover from this line right here. So this one comes all the way at the end and then goes this way. Ba does not. So this is Ka. Aba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ka, ta, ya, Ka. All right? Ka. La. The letter La looks kind of like this. So it's like this, boom. It's almost like when you're young, you're trying to draw some birds flying in the air when you were terrible at drawing. Well, I'm still terrible at drawing, but you know what I mean? Kind of doing that right there. But just keep in mind that the main focus is at the end of that squiggly. So you're coming in like this, and then you're coming in and drastic, almost like you're adding a question mark at the end of it. You know what I'm saying? So what we're doing here is we're going over, what it looks like, but also some tips on how you're actually writing it, because you're actually coming in with a curve and then again, but turn it in kind of like a question mark. So you're going to see that in a lot of applications where you see the letter La. Okay, La. We won't do the bonus words just yet. We'll wait till we get to the end. Then we'll get to the bonus letters. I'm going to get to the next one though. Ma. Ma basically just looks like a square with some extra hang off at the end. So not to get mixed up with Ta, because Ta actually has that curve in that you would associate with the piece of toast. Like I mentioned, Ta, toast, right? So this looks very similar to Ma, but Ma is more of an exact square with a little bit of a hang off right here at the end. So there's your Ma right there. Okay. Ma. You know what? I'll just go ahead and cover it. So there are sometimes when you're using the ancient Hebrew, when you're using ancient Hebrew, you never have to worry about this. When you're using the Assyrian language, if any of there are certain letters that when they're used at the end of a word, there's a different version of it that gets used. So that's just one of those things you have to get used to. So like for instance, there's only like 5 of them that do this. But you can exaggerate the length of the stroke at the end of that letter so that you can kind of more so identify which one it is. So say, for instance, Ka, as we know, has the smooth move and it comes out like this. Ka, when you look at it, when it's at the end of a letter, it goes down like that. Pretty far down, significantly longer than it would be as a regular letter. So you'll typically see that, okay? Another one, Ma. Ma is a little different because Ma is just literally a square. When it's used at the end of a letter, okay? I'm trying to think of an example of it, but I'm thinking since we're just doing the alphabet, we'll just leave this as it is, okay? So Ma, as we know in the ancient, Ma in the Assyrian, when it's used anywhere but at the end of a word, and then Ma, when it's used at the end of a word, it turns into that. Ka looks like this. La does not have that. Ma does have that, and then you have Na, which Na is pretty easy to remember. Just think of it like almost like the number 3. Okay. Not to be confused with la, which has a little bit more of a question mark thing at the end, which kind of looks similar, but it's not like that. So you actually have na that goes like this. And one of the ways that you can remember it too is if you ever have to use it at the end of a phrase, it actually does kind of look a little bit like a question mark. I'm exaggerating that, but that's kind of what you'll see on different applications that use it, where it just kind of it really exaggerates that stroke at the end, right? It might be a little bit more vertical than that. It's a little bit more like, think of it like kind of like a question mark, the way it just comes through and does that weird thing, right? So that's na, okay? Sa, which nah, this is where things get a little bit strange. So again, aba ga da ha wa za ka ta ya ka la ma na sa. Sa is kind of like a circle, but with a nice hairdo at the end. Like you just think of it as like a, he's got a little cowlick or whatever right there. So don't get that mixed up with I, because these are different alphabets. That's where people get confused. But sa in the ancient looks like, it damn near looks like a Chinese or Japanese letter when you look at some of their alphabet, right? But this is where it derives from. Sa, and then in the Assyrian Hebrew, it's a circle with some hang off at the end, right? Just like how ma is a square with some hang off at the end. Just like how ta looks like a toast with some hang off at the end. It's typically what you look at it and see, okay? So there's that. And then you have I. Now you have I always start with those because I does this right here, okay? when I do the letter I always start with those little exaggerations right here at the ends, because that when I've seen it in the handwritten, it always has that. And then it just kind of curves into this. There's no line right here, it doesn't do that. You just have to worry about that for the top half of it, okay? So again, let me just rewrite it just to get the practice in with it. So it's literally just that, and then you're going like this, and then you're going like this. I, okay? Again, aba ga da ha wa za cha ta ya ka la ma na sa I. Now we have pa coming right up. Okay, pa. Pa is actually very similar to its ancient Hebrew variant, but think of it as like you're playing the hangman game almost, right? You're doing the hangman game, so it just kind of has this little claw that comes down. Aside from that, it looks very similar. That's pa. Okay, that is pa. What that look like again? So pa, when it's used at the end of a sentence, it has that hangover, but then it also has this long, kind of like what ka does right at the end. So you're doing the same thing, but you just have the little hangman. Okay. So ka looks like that. Ma, na, sa, I, ha. Again, there's only 5 of them that do this, and the last one is actually the next one that we're about to do. Tazah. Tazah. Now, tazah is a little bit more different than I, because you're going to notice they're going to look kind of similar, but tazah actually comes through like this and then goes like that. That's what tazah does. Okay, but tazah, you can actually go ahead and put some squigglies on the top of there. So again, I just kind of comes across and then curves in. Tazah curves all the way in, stops, and then takes a hard left and then just goes straight across. That's the difference between I and tazah. See how it looks? This is what I looks like. This is what pa looks like. This is what tazah looks like. And then finally, if tazah is used at the end of a phrase, it has a long line, but on the left side, not on the right side, like some of these other ones. Right? So think of it kind of like this. This is tazah in its variations. Okay. Then you have qua. Qua, which has some hangover, and then it kind of goes and does this little R type thing. It doesn't connect to that line, and it doesn't go all the way out, but it does have a little bit of an overhang here. Then it comes in and goes like that. So that's what qua looks like in the Assyrian. I'm going to rewrite it again. All right. Qua. Qua. That's what qua looks like. Okay. Ra Again, this is important to remember. Remember this too. So when you're looking at Yah, remember how I mentioned that this is a lot smaller than the other letters? You're always going to see it smaller than the other letters. And the reason why you want to remember that is because Ra looks very similar, but it's actually regular sized. Okay? So you don't want to miss that up. You don't want to mess that up. Okay? Because Ra actually looks like its own thing. Okay? Ra. We'll just go like that. Because a lot of times when you look at it on an app, it's just a line that curves down, straight down. Okay. So that's what Ra looks like. Shah, thankfully, is very similar. Okay. But it's a little bit more like a claw. So it goes across like that. And then I always draw over and then up and then claw. Claw. So Shah, very similar, but it looks more like a rake. You know what I'm saying? So again, the way that I draw it, just to kind of make it easier to draw, is I'll start with the base, the left side, where I come across down, and then I just go across, and then up again, and then a little bit over, like a claw. All right? So that's what Shah looks like in the Assyrian. Okay? And then finally, you have Tha, which has a nice little cowlick, and then it also has some legs that are curved like that. So this is similar to this, but notice that Kha is a bit more straight, while Tha just has more curve on it. Okay, so that's the difference between the two there. And you'll notice Tha has that overhang here, and then also a bit of a leg there, almost like I don't know, like you're drawing a dog or something. A terrible one, but you get the idea. Okay, so this is the ancient Hebrew alphabet. This is the Assyrian alphabet as it relates to it, because they're of course lined right up. So I wanted to make sure to make that nice and neat for those of you in the audience that can see it. Okay, looks like we got quite a bit there. Okay, let me see here. So just real quick, we're not gonna do a whole full line of each one, but we should practice again some of these letters, because again, this is where you actually remember the language. Ah, ah. Ah. Or sometimes people just like to draw it like this. Ah. Like that. Ah. Oops. Oh no. Ah. Ah. Right? Get the idea there. So again, you just want to continue to rewrite them over and over. Drill it in your mind going from right to left. Next letter. Ba. 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 See that? That's the letter Ba. Get it in straight like that. We're going to leave this on the board here. Hopefully y'all can see it. Ga. 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 Everybody has their own style of handwriting. So what I try to do is I try to just get my handwriting to look very similar to what it looks like on the officer's test. Okay, so that's what I'm going off of, just so that y'all know. Next letter, da, 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 da. Look at that, da, 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 da. There's your da right there. Okay, this is why the fake Jew can't figure out what the Star of David or the Shield of David actually is, because their da does not look like a triangle. Okay, next letter, ha, 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 ha. There's your letter ha right there. Okay. Correct. We're on our way. So here we go. So next one, wah. Wah again is just like a little, kind of like that. Right? It's not like ka, which comes all the way across and then down. It's more just like just starting it and then going straight down. Sometimes when you look at it on like the Bible Hub app during Sabbath service, it's literally just a straight line. So that's one thing that you'll see too. The handwritten, it technically has a little bit of a curve off, and then it goes down. Wah, 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 wah. And again, we're just practicing it over and over so that we can drill it, remember it, just like how we did with the wah on the ancient Hebrew. Okay. Next up is za, za, za. Za, 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 za. There's the letter za. Okay. Okay. Keeping it going. Next up, cha, cha, cha. Cha, 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 cha. Just gotta make sure to close up that table all the way. Make sure those lines connect. I know I messed up on a couple of them, but you get the idea. It's like that. Ta, again, ta, ta. A piece of toast comes in, goes over. Like a piece of bread, right? Boom, boom, ta, 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 ta. Get the idea on that one? Ta, toast. Ya, ya. Remember, we've been drawing bigger letters, but ya, again, significantly lower, right? Not to get mixed up with ga, because that's not what we're messing with right now. We're not even on that alphabet right now. This is ya, 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 ya. Okay, so there's ya. Next one up, ka. Okay, is smooth with it, comes down right across. And we have the end ka, end ka. So here we have ka, and we have end ka. End ka has a longer trail off, right? So you got the ka, and you have end ka when it's at the end of the word. That's why I call it end ka. So ka, end ka. Ka, end ka. All right? Ka, end ka. Ka, end ka. You understand? I hope y'all kind of get that. And again, rewind the video. Once you got this, I would save this video. If you ever need kind of guidance as you're practicing, go ahead and replay this because we're just, you know what I'm saying, going over this over and over. So la, 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 la. Sometimes it's a little bit more like a 3, like a little bit more of an exaggeration. You'll see that sometimes. That's just how I write it, okay? You'll see that on some applications. But I do it that way I don't get it confused with na in any sort of way. So, so ma, and then end ma. Oops. Again, ma, end ma, is just a square. We got ma, we got end ma. We got ma, end ma. Again, ma, end ma. Ma, end ma. Ma, end ma. Ma, end ma. What's the difference? Technically, there's a hangover, right? Like the edge of a table, right? This one is just a square. But you'll notice that it looks like just a square in certain cases. Like Mashak Mayam, Captain Is it Mash? Captain Mashak. Ma. Yum. This is one of our captains in the ISUPK. Mashak. Again, that's the N ka, right? So I have the longer K right here. So Mashaka. Those are connected because that's one phrase. This is another phrase. Mashak. That's this one. Mayam, which actually has two M's, and this is perfect because it has the M that has the hangover. Then you have the ya and then the ma at the end. So again, Mayama, Mayam. Mayum. And you see the only difference between these two M's? One of them has the hangover, the other one does not because it's at the end of the name. Mashak Mayum. All right. So that's an example of that. Na looks like this. Almost like a 3. Most of the time you'll see it curve like that. It doesn't go in sharp like that, like the way we think of the number 3 nowadays. So a lot of times when you look at na, it kind of does this curvy thing. Na. And then we have and na. So again, na. Then we have and na. Again, na. And na. 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 Again, na, and then na when it's used at the end. Okay. Now, the funny thing is when we say Lashawan Qadash, we don't have to worry about any of those extra different letters at the end because those don't exist in the ancient Hebrew. What does the other people do when they try to take language? They try to make it overly complicated and adding vowels and all kinds of extra stuff. But every time we have to learn their language, the first thing we do is find ways to shorten the language. That's why I was like, yo, what up, cuz? Like, I just said, what's up, cousin? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's good with you, man? Like, you know, we always say and find ways to throw ebonics into everything that we do because our original language was more simple than these other languages that came after. Okay. Next up, sa. Basically, it's a circle with a nice hairdo, right? He's got a little hair action going on. He's got the, you know, let me get that right. So it's like, it's not disconnected like right here. It looks like this. Like that. So it's basically a sa. Okay. Sa. Sa. Okay. Just think of a little stick figure head with a hairdo at the end. I. Just showing you different ways to draw it. I. See that? That's how it lines up with that. Okay. Next up, pa. Again, pa. A little hangman at the end. Right? You got the little claw, the crane game, right? Pa. Oh, let's not forget. End pa. Okay. End pa. So then we got pa. Then we got end pa. Again, we got pa. And we got end pa. I'm kind of exaggerating on the drawing. Pa, let me get it right. So end pa. Pa. End pa. That's what it looks like. Okay. You just got to practice. The more you practice it, the more you'll get it down. All right. Tazah. Again, tazah squiggles over here, then takes a sharp turn. And then you finish that up. Boom. Tazah. In tazah looks like this, which is kind of the opposite of what I does. It doesn't have that curve that goes that way. It's just a straight line down. Because a lot of the times, what do you see? You see these inversions, other than this one, is that you have a longer line that goes. All right. So always remember that. Again, tazah, tazah, and then end tazah. Right? Again, tazah. Then we got end tazah. Tazah. And we got end tazah. That's how it goes right there. Boom. Next up, qua. Okay. Qua. Qua. Okay. Qua. So I bet it almost looks like a smooth version of tazah, right? But it's not exactly the same thing. It's not even the same word or same letter. So qua. 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 All right. Almost like an unfinished R. That's what qua looks like. Next up is ra. 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 Like again, you see ra. Usually it does look like just like that. You know what I mean? Just like a half of a square or something. And then of course Shah. This is very similar to the ancient Hebrew version. Shah. Shah. Like a rake, right? So Shah comes up like that. And I hope that y'all are going along with me. Practice it. That's all you got to do is just practice it. It's the only way you get the handwriting down. It's the only way you'll really get the memory of it down, okay? So just trust me on that. You go through this and you do this a couple times with the full alphabet, you know what I'm saying? Both of them all the way through. You'll have this down in no time. You'll have it down in a week. You understand? Tha. Right? Tha. Almost like a stick figure dog or something. Right? Tha. 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 Just remember it's going to have that overhang at the end over here. And then boom. All right? Tha. So again, we've gone through the alphabet today. We're going to leave it at that because we want to start off with our foundation. I'm going to leave this on the board here, and this is going to carry over into next week as well because we're going to expand on this even further. We're going to, you know what I mean, start putting some words together, start showing you examples of words. But it is important to have the full alphabet, right? So again, just to finish off, Abagada Hawaza Khataya Kala Manasa Ipa Tazakwa Rasha Tha. And I hope that's legible. I hope y'all can see those letters there. And like I said, I use the dividers to really line it up so y'all can really follow along with it. But this is your culture. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, you can expect to see this all over the world eventually. This version of it. This is the version that you predominantly see right now. We ought to know that because we did use that as well when we were in Syria. But this is what they consider modern day Hebrew at the bottom floor. And the top is our simplified Ebonic, real, ancient Paleo Hebrew. Okay? So with that, again, we are the Isupk, starting out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. This has been San Antonio's inaugural Isupk Lashawan Qadash class. I hope y'all, you know what I'm saying, learn something from it again, or at least at the very least, got some practice in getting these letters down, lining it up, and comparing them between the two versions of the Hebrew. And with that, shalom. Yahweh Shem Shai Barakatah to the brothers. Yahweh Shemar Thamba Shem Shai to the sisters. Oh, you call. Are you still there, you call? Let me know if you're still there. His brother was asking about his name. You call. You still there? Let me help you with that real quick. So your name is Yakal Ya'ala, right? This is how we know how to pronounce it because we're reading it in English. You're still there? Okay, Most High Christ. Okay, so I'm gonna help you get this so that you can get the, so you can write it your name in the ancient Hebrew and in the Assyrian. Okay, so Yakal, I'm gonna start off with the ancient Hebrew version. Ya, Ka, La, right? Because there's 3 letters here. Ya, Ka, and then La. Ya, Ka. Now again, the La is connected to the Ka. So it's Ya, Ka. Okay? Following? And then the next part, Ya'ala, Ya, okay? And then which is AH, and then La. Now, what do you notice about this one? Ya, La. They're not connected. That's how it is. Ya Allah, the power. Allah means power. Okay? So Ya, which means the, when it's part of the same word. Yakal, I forget what Yakal means. You can post that in the chat as well. Yakal, Ya Allah. Okay? Now, let's not get it confused. Keep in mind, Muslim language comes from Hebrew also. They derive from our language. So they took Allah, they turned it into a God or whatever. But that just means power. Okay? And that's what you'll see. This is the phrase that you'll see when you're reading the 10 Commandments. And the first commandment says, there shall be no other powers before me. It's using that phrase right there. But Allah, Allah. So Yakal, Ya Allah. That's it in the Lashawan Qadash. And then likewise in the modern Hebrew, Ya, Ka. And then it was like this. Oh, hold on. In La. No, La doesn't have that. Okay. Yakal. Man, let me group it together a little bit better for you. Yakal. Yakal. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just writing these here so that you can see how they either connect or don't. When I have that little horseshoe under it, that means it's pronounced by itself. Ya, ya, Allah. And then right here, you see when it curves over and connects to it, that's where you know that it connects. So, Yakal, Ya Allah. Yakal, Ya Allah. And there's your name right there, right? If you're Issachar, Yash Shakar, right? Yakala, and then you would go and you would write Ban, right? And then you would go Yash Shakar, right? Yash Shakar, okay? Ban, son of. So Yakal Ya'ala Ban Yashakar, just like that. You see how that looks, right? Ban in the Assyrian, Ba, and then Na. I'm tripping. Yeah, it's a thing. Okay, so Ban, and then Ya, Yash, Shah. See that? Call Ya Allah, Ban Yashakar. Take a screenshot of that if you need it. Yeah, Most High Christ. I'll leave that on the board until next week. But yeah, if you have any other questions about how to write any particular name phrases, let me know. Because I definitely want to, you know what I'm saying? This is a learning experience for all of us. You know, I'm not going to be up here pretending like I'm completely fluent in the language. Well, it's a continuous learning process for all of us. So we're doing that together as a nation. All right? Shalom. Yahaba Shem Shabakata. Yahal Shema Atam Ba Shem Yahal Shai. All right?